Hey everyone, welcome back to our channel. In our previous video, we discussed the process of building Docker images and publishing them to Docker Hub using GitHub Actions. If you missed that, you can always refer back to that video in the link below. However, in today's video, we will go into the details of building a Docker image and publishing it to AWS Elastic Container Registry, or better known as ECR service, using the GitHub Actions. This automation process plays a crucial role in enhancing our CI/CD pipelines. So let's dive right into it and let's get started. But first, let's go over the prerequisites. You will need an AWS account. Go to this link and register for 3 tier AWS accounts if you haven't done it already. Docker installed on your local machine. If you're not exactly sure how to do this, please do check out our video on installing Docker. And lastly, you'll need a GitHub account. If you haven't set it up already, please go here to sign up now. An important thing to note here is that if you haven't done these steps already, please do make sure to do so before continuing further. All right, so let's get started with our demo. So we'll go to the headintheclouds GitHub repository called YouTube Docker CI AWS ECR. Not to worry, we will include the link to the repository in the description below. And if you take a quick look at this page, on the right-hand side here, we'll be able to see a brief description about what this repository is for. Also in here, you'll be able to find links to our YouTube videos that are relevant to each exercise. So for your convenience and easier navigation, it will be all available to their allocated repositories. And if we take a quick look through our files, so you can see we've got quite a few in here, which we'll go in more detail shortly. And if we scroll down, we'll also be able to see README file, also describing what exactly this exercise is for. So building and pushing Docker images to Amazon AWS ECR, which stands for Elastic Container Registry, using the GitHub Actions. Also in here, you'll be able to find the most important steps, so you can also read through all of that in your own free time and also refer back to it whilst you start going through the exercises. We'll scroll back up to the top of the page, and you'll make sure that you're actually logged in to the GitHub with your account. So here I am logged in with my account, Mili Surcevic. And down here, we'll click on the fork button. I will once again double check my actual name is stated here. So the correct profile has been assigned, and I'm also going to keep the same name of this repository. Once we're happy with the description, we will click on Create Fork button just now, and we'll give it a few moments to complete the process. And once that's done, the top here, you'll be able to see that it's now switched to our accounts. So Mili Surcevic, and I also have the same name that I use for the forked repository. So in here, you can see it's been forked from headintheclouds. And once that's done, I will make sure to clone this repository down onto my local machine. So I will use the SSH just because I've already created and set up everything with my SSH key. So if you haven't done that yet, please also make sure to do it for best practices and, of course, security reasons. So copy the URL and we'll go to Visual Studio Code. We'll make sure that we're actually in the right directory. So this one is what we've been using so far for the testing purposes. So in here we'll do git clone and then paste in here the actual URL. And as you can see in here, we'll be able to see all of the listed files that we've previously seen in our GitHub repository. And also we want to make sure that we're actually in the right location. So just to double check, that is the clone repository, which is correct. And if we go back to our internet browser, we will go to AWS. So once again, please do make sure you do have an account set up. I'm already logged in with my AWS free tier account. And as you can see, the default region has been set up to Frankfurt, which is EU Central 1. And if we start by creating the ECR registry, so let's go in there. So we'll keep it, let's say, public for the testing purposes, and we'll give it a name, headintheclouds, Docker CI/CD ECR, and everything else can stay the same. And obviously, if you prefer, this can also be set to private. Access is then managed by IAM and repository policy permissions. So let's say for this demo, we could also set this up. And if you scroll down, we'll click on Create Repository. And in here, you'll see list of all repositories available. We've got the newly created one, headintheclouds Docker CI/CD ECR listed just over here. All right, so let's take a quick look through our index.js file. So this file here, we use the Express framework to create a web server. It also sets a route to our homepage that responds with hello, welcome to headintheclouds. Once accessed. This server also listens on port 3000 that we just specified here by default. But it can also use other ports specified under this environment server here, which is called environments for the variable port. And once the service actually started, it will log a message indicating where exactly this is being run and also the port is listening to. So let's extend back our terminal window and discuss through some of the commands that we initially ran for setting up the Node.js project. So to do the first initialization, you would run npm init-yes. So that will pretty much set up your Node.js project. It will go through creation of these files here that you can find on the left-hand side, which will be package.json, which will include all the dependencies required to be installed to run your application. You could also do npm install express if you haven't done it already. You can also check through if there are any latest updates or vulnerabilities to be aware of. And lastly, you can run node index.js. As we mentioned earlier, you'll be able to see a message here where exactly the server has been running on. So in our case, it'll be localhost on the specified port 3000. And if we go to our internet browser, in here, we'll be able to see our local host on port 3000, which will take us to, excuse me, our homepage with displaying a message, hello, welcome to headintheclouds, and also a brief description of what this exercise is about. So creating, building Docker images and pushing them to Amazon ECR using the GitHub Actions. Next, we'll review our Docker files. So let's just minimize the terminal once again and scroll back up to the top of the page. We have a list of instructions here that we gave in our Docker file to run through when building the Docker image for our application. We started with employing a multi-stage build process, as you can see over here. to efficiently package our Node.js application. Also in the initial stage, we have stated to use Node 14 version as the base image. And we've also set up the working directory, which you can just see over here. We've also copied the package.json file and ran the npm install to basically go through installation of all the dependencies specified in the package.json file, and also copying, lastly, the application code into the container itself. The next steps are actually including the creation of the final image. So starting again with Node version 14 as a base image, and it's also establishing a non-root user in a group within the container for, let's say, enhanced security. It then copies the built application. So if we go in here, we can see the name, which corresponds to this statement here, and the actual group as well within container that we've specified for, let's say, change of the ownership to this specific user. And also we are exposing the port 3000 for all the external access. Finally, it switches to the non-root user, which is specified in here. And it's also running for the last command over here, which we also saw earlier when we typed node index.js to test our application locally. As you can see over here, it's still running. We are actually specifying the same command here once we're building the Docker image. So let's extend back the terminal. We'll cancel this, clear our screen, make sure nothing else is running in the background, no images interfering with the same name, and we'll run through a few commands to test this locally first before automating anything else further. So we'll do docker build -t, we'll call it node.js, and then we'll specify dot in the end to look for our local Dockerfile. And it's just going to run through the build stage. Shouldn't take too long to complete. And there it is. Once that's done, we will do docker run in detached mode. We'll give a name docker test app, and it will use port 3000. And lastly, it will specify the image, which will be Node.js latest. And if we do docker ps, we can see that our application is up and running. And if I just copy this, close, and reopen it, paste in here, we can see that our app is up and running. If I do docker remove, and then just copy the first two numbers in here, make sure that the container is not running. If I refresh the page, we can see that our application is now down, which demonstrated successful test of our Node.js application locally first by running the commands through CLI, by actually building the Docker image and also running the container to test the image as well. And the next step will be to do all of this in an automated way using the GitHub Actions. All right, now we will go through our GitHub Actions workflow file, which can be found here under GitHub Workflows and Docker image.yaml file. In this file, you can see the actual GitHub Actions workflow that will automate our process of building and pushing Node.js Docker images to an AWS Elastic Container Registry or ECR, with the trigger set to push events on the main branch, as we can see here in this section here. The next in line is the workflow execution in the special environment, which we've set to Ubuntu latest. So it will begin with the checkouts of the code using the actions checkouts version 2. The next in line, we have configuration of AWS credentials. So this is really important for us to be able to authenticate with our AWS using the AWS Actions configure AWS credentials version 1, and also utilizing the secret environment variables. So here we're defining AWS access key ID and also secret access key. So please do pay attention to these variables, as this is also something that we'll have to use later on when we set our secrets on GitHub. And here we did specify the version. So as we are located in Europe, here you can see we are using Frankfurt EU Central 1. So we also want to make sure that is also stated in here. The next one, once we complete the authentication, we will then proceed with logging into our AWS ECR using the AWS Actions Amazon ECR login version 1. And following this, it also retrieves the version number that we specified over here. So on the left-hand side, if you click on version file, you'll be able to see we're just using this for a demo purpose, version 1.0.0. And here it will actually assign this as an output variable. So we are also checking through that the version file exists, and of course it can actually output what we've set in the file here on the left hand side. The next we'll be proceeding with the Docker build stage. So this will go through the actual build of the Docker image, and here you can see also the command we're using for that with the retrieved version number previously stated in this step here. So as you can see, step.getVersion corresponds to this step here, and it also used the outputs version, so what we've stated here in the version file. The next, the workflow itself will streamline the integration and deployment of the Node.js application's Docker image to AWS ECR, making sure that the versioning, so we're using semantic version in this case, there is consistency with each push to the main branch. So this is also very, very important step to us. And lastly, as you can see in here, we will push the Docker image to ECR. So we use the Docker push command for that. And with that, we'll be concluding the final step of our workflow. All right, so next we'll proceed with configuring AWS credentials. So to be able to enable GitHub Actions to access AWS services such as ECR, we need to set up AWS credentials in GitHub as secrets. And these secrets will securely store the necessary credentials and allow GitHub Actions to use them during the workflow execution. So here is how to configure the AWS credentials. If you go back to your AWS console, and here you can type IAM at the top bar and click to take us to the service. And in here, we will go to the user groups. To start with, we'll create a new group and we'll give it a name, let's say headintheclouds Docker ECR, and we'll scroll through and we'll actually look for Amazon EC2 container, and let's just extend this bit here. We'll look for registry full access. We'll select that one, and we'll also look for the power users, so top two permissions or policy names we'll select. And at the bottom, we'll click on create group. As you can see here at the top bar, we've got configuration that our group has been successfully created, which we can see obviously just over here. And once that's in place, we will then go ahead and create our new user. So let's go in here and we'll call it, let's say, GitHub actions user, and we will then click on next. And in here, we're going to add the user to the group that we've just created now. So that will contain all the necessary policy and permissions attached to the group itself. So let's click on next. We don't need any tags for this demo. And that's been successfully created. If we click on the actual user, we just need to go to security credentials and create the access key. So here you can select, let's say, best practices or alternatives for the actual usage of this access key. So for us, we'll just select third-party service and click on here, understanding the above recommendation. Click next and create the key. So this is again being used for demo purposes. Please do make sure that you do take notes of this once you do it on your side, as this is something we will be adding to our GitHub shortly. So if we head over to the forked repository here for YouTube, Docker, CI, AWS ECR, we'll go to settings, and then if you scroll down on the left-hand side, you'll be able to see secrets and variables. Click on actions, and in here under repository secrets, click on new repository secret. Go back to your AWS console, where we'll copy the access key. We'll add the actual value in here, and if you go back to your Visual Studio Code, in here we will also look for AWS access key ID. So make sure you select the AWS _access_key_ID. So we'll copy that and add this as our actual name of the secret. We'll click on add secret, and we'll do the same for the secret access key. So we'll just copy that, and we'll create a new repository secret. We'll add the secret in there, and once again, we will copy the relevant secret access key variable and also paste it in here. Add secret. And now we can see here that we've got both AWS access key ID and AWS secret access key added to our GitHub. So once we've added this, it's important to go through these repository settings and verify that you've correctly listed these secrets and they're actually corresponding to your variables that you've defined here in the workflow and the actual values that you can retrieve through the AWS console itself. So make sure that these steps are correct before we proceed further with committing and pushing our changes and actually triggering our GitHub Actions workflow. All right, let's start with our final step, which will be committing and pushing our changes to GitHub and triggering the workflow. So we'll make sure we're in the right directory. So this is our repo that we forked earlier. And if we do git status, we'll see where we haven't made any changes just yet, as all of these files that we can see here are the files that were previously created for you, so something that you forked from headintheclouds repository. So before we start making any changes, we want to make sure we actually change or create a new, let's say, feature branch for the best practices, where we can add all our changes, let's say, and then push the actual commit to the main branch, so we can create like a pull request to review and then merge it once we're happy with the changes we're applying. So this is something that we'll use in the real world examples out there. So just to get into habits and to use best practices, we'll also be implementing that in here. So to do that, we will get listed all the branches. So you can see here we only have one main branch, and then if we do let's say checkout, this is something we used previously, so we'll use the command git checkout and then -b for branch. which will create a new branch. And here I'm giving my initials, so ms/, and then the actual explanation, brief, let's say summary of what exactly we'll be doing here. And as you can see, now it's saying we've switched to a new branch called Docker ECR Workflow. And then here you can also see we've previously been in our main branch. Now we are we've been changed to this one here. And also in your Visual Studio Code, you can also see the two available branches, and you can switch between them nice and easily from there. And once that's been created, we will do git status once again. We don't have any changes, so our purpose here is just to trigger the actual workflow. So if we go back to our, let's say, workflow YAML file, and here we can just probably remove this extra line and save it. And if we go back to the terminal, you can see here now this file has been marked as yellow and with letter M for modified. So if we do git status once again, we'll be able to see that this changes have been made in this specific file. And if we do git add dot and then status once again, these changes are now ready to be committed. So we'll clear our screen and we'll type git commit with a message to set up Docker, build, and push workflow. Enter. And now we'll do git push. We'll copy this to set the current branch for the upstream. And there it is. So if we go back to our GitHub in here, you can see at the top a yellow selected or highlighted area saying that this has been pushed a couple of seconds ago. Let's click on compare and pull request. And here it's going from the feature branch we've created now from the head repository. So we're not using headintheclouds, we're using our personal profile that we've forked earlier, and then it will be going into main branch, which is correct, but not to headintheclouds, but back to our profile. So we're merging our feature branch into the main branch on our profile, so it's not leaving, it's not going back to the original repository. And then here you can also write a description, you can preview it. You can also scroll through to see the actual changes that have been made. So in here we've just removed the extra space, contributors, and so on. So let's go back up, create a pull request. And once again, here you can scroll through different tabs, the actual commit, so the number, you can find all the details in here. Files changes, so in here you'll be able to see all the things that differ from the original one. And if you're happy with everything that you've seen just now, you can merge pull request, you can give it a commit or a name, or you can just confirm merge, which will confirm here that it's been successfully merged and close this specific branch. So we're not going to be using it later on, so it can be deleted either here or later on. But let's just for now go to actions directly. So if you go compare it also in the code, you'll be able to see this yellow dot here, which says pending, because we've just merged the pull request. And also in here, you'll be able to see two branches, which we can also review in more detail later. And if we go back to actions and click on merge pull request, and then once again click on the actual build and push to ECR, we can see all the different steps here being performed. If we scroll all the way down, it's just doing the final checks of the code, and it actually completed the job successfully. You can also see the green tick over here. And if we go back to the ECR on our AWS console, and if we go to our repository in here, we'll be able to see our new image that's been created just now with the image tag, which is correct, what we defined it here in the version file, which is 1.0.0. We can also see the artifact type, when it was pushed, the actual size, image URI if you want to copy it, and also the SHA code, the actual number here at the end. Congratulations! you have successfully set up a GitHub Actions workflow to automate the process of building Docker images and pushing them back to Amazon ECR. In our next video, we'll take this step even further. We will cover how to push these Docker images to Amazon Elastic Container Service, or better known as ECS, and deploy your applications. This will involve setting up an ECS cluster, creating task definitions, and configuring services to run your Docker containers in a scalable and manageable way. So stay tuned for that. If you found this video helpful, please like and subscribe to stay up to date with our latest content. Feel free to leave any questions or comments below, and we'll be happy to answer them back to you. Thanks for watching, and see you soon.